Rick here, looking at a few of the tools that I use for government contracting. So you can ask questions. I will answer the questions as I can get to them going through here. Some of the things I wanted to talk about were how important it is to establish a niche. And then what do you do from there? How do you go and find the leads? How do you even decide if a niche is good in government contracting? Right? So how do we take advantage of all the data that's public on government contracting? Because that's the big advantage, remember. Selling to the government, there's tons of money there. It's hard. It takes a long time, but we can see exactly who buys what you sell. We can look at how much competition there is, which is amazing, right? How many proposals are coming in per solicitation? You can see that with the government. That's one of the powers of being able to develop a niche is we can see how competitive things are. And depending on what kind of company you have, depending on what your service is, you might just have to make a small switch and have extremely extremely not competitive, or depending on your view of the word. But I want to see few solicitations or few proposals coming in per solicitation, a lot of money being spent. And then I'll walk through how I find each opportunity, go through the different tools. So where do you want to start here? I'm going to start with USA Spending because you guys know how much I love to use USA Spending. So let's see here. So right now, what you guys are looking at is usaspending.com. Tons of great information here. We can look up different industries, government spending. We could probably do a 5-hour live stream on how to use USA Spending to your advantage as a business owner. But what I'm looking at here is a specific niche, okay? Now, where I might start is, so this is something simple, dry cleaning and laundry. All right, now, we're working with a lot of technical companies, software companies, but you could have any business and sell to the government almost, because the government buys just about everything that you can think of, right? Remember, the U.S. government's the single biggest purchaser of goods and services on earth. I'm a former government procurement officer, so I'm pretty aware of all the different things they buy, from training and education to tech to airplanes that drop bombs to paying for school teachers, landscaping for fields, right? So just about anything you can think of. And there's a lot of codes in here. So what I usually do, I start at the top. I usually choose the past 4 years of fiscal spending. And then I just came down and dropped in the dry cleaning and laundry services code. You can just type in whatever it is you do and see if something pops up. So if you're looking to try to figure out what code is associated with what you do or what you're selling, you can play around with it here. There are other websites you can use as well. But this is a NAICS code, North American Industry Classification Code. And as you can see here, just in dry cleaning and laundry services, how much does the U.S. government spend? Well, here's what it is going to bring up when you type this in. These here are actually individual contracts with companies. So here I can look at the different companies that are selling those services. Here, it's telling me the awarding agencies, right? So it's telling me that the Department of Defense is spending the most money. I can actually, using this, I can go down a little bit further. I can look at sub-agency. It has to think about it, but now it's telling me that the VA, followed by the Army, followed by the Navy. The reason it did this, it said DOD at the top because that's a parent agency. So DOD, that was combining the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. But now that I hit sub-agency, it's saying, okay, well, the VA actually kind of goes up to the top. And now we can see the Army, Navy, Air Force below there. And that's huge. We want to actually know the specific offices that are selling or that are making the purchases. And if I go down even further, now it'll tell me by year. Okay, so how much is the spending by year? 53 million in 22, 64.6 million in 2023. Guys, this is just on dry cleaning. The GovClose certification is generating tremendous results. So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, you've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal. Is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely probably my best investment I've made all year.
It would be my second post on how a cold call landed a 9-figure government contract. My name's Gavin Tice.
So my name is Ethan Mart. When I was able to enroll into the GovClose program, it just exceeded all my expectations. It really has provided a lot of valuable learnings and insights that I would not have found on my own.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community. Hi, I'm Deb Diller Harris.
If you want to learn how to sell to the government, if you want to learn how to start your own consulting business, if you want to learn the skills that you need to go land a six-figure plus account executive job with big companies selling to the government, the certification program is for you. Head on over to govclose.com, check out our certification program, talk to the team. You won't regret it. Okay, this is how much the government's spending on dry cleaning and laundry services, right? So if you do something that's a little more technical, you can imagine that goes up. I mean, if we talk about IT software, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars, not millions. 24 says 52.9 million. Now, the U.S. government works on the fiscal year, not on the calendar year. So, meaning the fiscal year for the government starts October 1st, it ends at the end of September. So that's just something to know if you're not familiar with it. Also, I want to see if you guys can, I'm just typing test in the comments here because I'm using a new streaming software. Usually I just log right into YouTube or one of the other platforms. So if you guys can see that, just give me a quick, like, okay, or you suck, or whatever you want to type in there. Don't type that. Keep going down on USA spending. I can see the location. That's kind of cool too, because now if you're doing something that, if you're geographically constrained or restrained, and dry cleaning might be one of those things. Well, now we can see, all right, well, what states are actually doing most of the spending? And we can see here, Texas and California are doing quite a bit of spending for these type of services. And in this case, we're talking about dry cleaning services. So what do I do with that? Well, now I'm thinking that I may have a good niche. I don't necessarily know yet. Now, we could go and take a look. I mean, look at these obligations. This is kind of ridiculous. Century Linen and Uniform, $3.1 million. If I want to know how many proposals were written for this, if they're loaded, I can find them in here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'll just clicked on the contract number. Okay. And this is going to tell me a little bit about the contract. There's a lot that we could dig into here. I don't want to bore everybody. If this was actually your niche, you would want to deep dive on this particular contract maybe. But if I go in here, I can look at acquisitions details, competition details. Now this says 8 offers were received. 8's actually not that high, right? So if you're writing a competitive bid, if you have experience, having a 1 in 8 shot at, let's see, how much was awarded already? So this is a $13.5 million contract, $3.2 million awarded so far. Okay, now I happen to know a little bit more about this whole dry cleaning thing. USA Spending is a tool that is free. It's a tool that the government has out there, has all the contract data. But what we can do is we can take a look at, if I use a paid tool, like this is GovIQ. Now I just ran this here. Now it's going to look at all of the contracts and it's going to tell me that on average, 5 offers are coming in per solicitation. So that's pretty powerful to know that 5 offers per solicitation are coming in. So it is this means that there's low competition overall. And I can break that down even further, right? I can also take a look at things like, so here's the VA. If I want to know the exact offices that I need to target, right? With a tool that you pay for like this, we can start looking. Now it's going to tell me, hey, it's under the VA, it's the Veterans Health Administration. Then it's telling me kind of at the top here is this VA Mid-South Healthcare Network. So it's telling me exactly which office is doing most of the spending. With the Army, look, it's telling me Army Material Command, Army Contracting Command, and then it's going into specific offices, this Mission and Installation Contracting Command. So now I have a really strong idea of who I need to be targeting within the VA and the Army. And I did that relatively quickly, right? So we can use these certain tools to really get an idea of who we're going after, what's a good niche, but what do I do next, right? So I have found a cool niche or good niche, a low competitive, low competition niche, according to my research? And what if I want to find an opportunity here? So you probably know, if you watch the channel often, is that I do not believe in going after solicitations unless I have found that solicitation early and worked it. Meaning, if a solicitation, meaning a request for proposal or a request for quote, comes out on November 15th, I want to know that it's coming out on November 15th. And I want to know about that probably 6 months before, because that allows me to work within the market research phase. I can now, before that solicitation comes out, I can reach out to the office. I could try to set up a meeting. I could try to influence the opportunity. I can even maybe help the government write the solicitation. That's a very powerful thing to be able to do. So the way that I do that, so I'm in GovClose right now. This is my tool for managing leads and whatnot. I'm going to go to my opportunities here. What I want to find is a sources sought. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of how I might do this. So to find an RFI or sources sought, so I want to add a new opportunity and I want to find something within this dry cleaning realm that we're working in here. So what I want to do is I want to go to Sam.gov, right? So go to Sam.gov. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to search for an opportunity. You're going to go in here. You're going to see where it says select domain. I'm going to the plus button. I'm going to go to contract opportunities. Now, we're looking for a sources sought, not a regular solicitation. I want to find something before the official solicitation comes out. So that gives me the time and the legal ability to coordinate with that office, right? I want them to be able to talk to me. I want to be able to get in there, give them a presentation, tell them what I'm doing. So we just clicked on contract opportunities. So I am going to look at notice type, and you'll see right here, there's going to be a sources sought. Most people are looking for solicitations, but I'm going to look for sources sought. That's probably what you want to look for too. I've already done this. So I found one for laundry services for military treatment facilities. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that the government, again, this is not technically, you're not going to, if you respond to this, you're not going to win a contract. But eventually you could, and you're going to be more likely to if you respond to this first. Because keep in mind, anybody that is responding to a solicitation and just writing a proposal, if they have not responded to the sources sought that came before it, then they are going to be less likely to win. It's that simple, right? So if I put a sources sought out and I get 3 responses, and then I put the solicitation out 6 months later and I get 15 responses, but 3 of those people have been working with my office, meaning my office when I was in the government, putting companies on contract. I knew them. I got to see their past performance. Maybe they helped me, but maybe they made suggestions to help us write the solicitation. They have relationships. How much more likely are they to win than you who just engaged on the solicitation, right? I mean, it should be common sense, but it's not. And I understand that because government contracting's complicated and it is riddled with policy and regulations and contract law that you're not used to seeing, right? And most people have never even heard of a sources sought or a market research phase. So if you fall into that category, then you're that much ahead of the game now. So we're looking for sources sought. So what do you see when we're going down here? Well, it tells us it's with the Defense Health Agency. And it's probably going to have some statement in here about, hey, this is not a solicitation. It's always going to have that. Often, and let me talk about why the government puts these out. The government puts these out for a few reasons. They may be trying to figure out if they can set this aside for a certain type of business, a small business, a woman-owned small business, an 8A. You name the set aside, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. How does the government figure out if they're going to restrict competition? Well, this is one of the ways they figure it out. They put out a sources sought and they will ask, hey, what kind of business are you? Are you going to respond to the solicitation when it comes out? And if they get a certain number of one of those, I guess you could say, set aside type businesses, well, then they may determine to set it aside. What if you don't have a set aside? What if you're a small business, but not woman owned, not a veteran or service disabled? Well, then you can suggest to the office, say, hey, look, we recommend that you just make this a small business solicitation when it comes out. Okay. Because you don't want them to restrict it so you can't put in a bid. Right. On the other hand, if you are a woman-owned small business and you suggest that they restrict it to woman-owned small business, and they do, so a couple months from now when the solicitation comes out, if it's restricted for woman-owned small business, that means you've just eliminated all the competition that's not a woman-owned small business. So think about how much more effective you are at winning that contract. You just eliminated all that competition. Not to mention the fact that you may have gotten in there early, set up a meeting. So if I keep going here, there are going to be questions that they want you to answer. They're going to give us some information. So they're telling us a little bit about the facilities, the tools, what do they want you to do, your dry cleaning and laundry services in this case. Now, and they will also ask you to make a submission. They're going to tell you what they want you to submit. Here it says, interested parties may express, oh, that didn't look good. Interested parties may express interest and provide a capability statement, products list, no later than Monday, 25 November. What else is it saying here? Non-proprietary information. Okay, so if you don't know what a capability statement is, I've done videos on that. You can check it out on our YouTube channel. But are you confined to only submitting a capability statement, which is it's a one-page marketing document, basically. So the answer is no. So the beauty of this is that the government doesn't put one of these out unless they have funding and a requirement lined up to put somebody on contract. This is a lot of work. So when we submit on this, we're not wasting our time. What we're doing is we're identifying an opportunity early that has money, and we're talking to the exact people that could put you on contract. So instead of chasing squirrels, instead of like going, hey, do I need a GSA schedule? What AI proposal writing tool should I get? Instead of wasting time with all that, we're going right to the source. Who has money and who buys what we sell? And that's here. How to get the certification one. Yeah, I can get into certification, how you can do those. But by the way, the certification, don't hang your hat on that certification. Your certification can help you restrict competition. There are some certifications that move the needle a little bit more than others, like 8A and service disabled veteran-owned small business. But the certification is not going to equal contracts just rolling in. It can help you slightly. If you have a good business, a good product or solution that you provide, there's no reason that you can't go in there with a little persistence, determination, and a plan and win these contracts. Okay. So with this, they say, hey, we want a capability statement. What I'm telling you is that this is not an official solicitation. If this was a request for proposal, I would tell you to do exactly what the instructions say, because you could be eliminated from the competition. If they ask for 10-page proposal and you write a 15-page, at best, they're going to cut off the last 5 pages and only read the first 10. If they ask for 12-point font, put it in 12-point font. Like, they're going to score everything. But nothing's being scored here. This is your way of influencing them. So I would give them the capability statement, but I would also include a lot more. So I'm making suggestions here. If you have a GSA schedule, I'd say, hey, maybe you could use GSA as the contracting mechanism to put a company on contract with this. If they do that, you've just eliminated anyone that doesn't have GSA. If you do have a certification one, you could suggest that and eliminate competition that way. But what if you're in laundry and dry cleaning, by the way, it doesn't matter, like, you don't have to be a dry cleaning and laundry business for this to make sense for you. This could be any business in any industry. The sources sought come out for almost all of them. So, but if I'm a dry cleaning business, what I might do is, let's say I have a machine that's environmentally friendly and certified, or maybe I have some special training. I might recommend to the government, hey, to meet some of the environmental guidelines that have come out in recent documentation from the government, which, by the way, might disappear with the recent election or be restricted a little bit more, but we'll see. But hey, to meet some environmental codes, we recommend that you put in the solicitation that the dry cleaning business has to have this type of machine that's environmentally friendly, blah, blah, blah. Well, now what have you done? So even on the surface, it may not look like much. When that solicitation comes out, if the government writes in as a requirement that whoever does this work has to have this special machine, Well, then you have just put yourself ahead of all your competitors. In fact, they might not even be able to compete if they don't have that machine. And this could apply to anything. But if you're offering program management services, well, then you could suggest, hey, we recommend that in addition to having the PMP certification, all your employees have the GovClose certification. That's just a plug for my GovClose certification program, but it could be anything, right? So you're recommending things that you have that could differentiate you and keep you competition-wise, eliminate some of the competition. So anyway, we go down. So here's what they want. We want the capability statement. Who are you sending it to? Look at this. A lot of people are asking me, how do I find leads for government contracting? I just showed you. How do we find them? We go to Sam.gov. Before we even do that, we'll look for a niche that's not very competitive. Who are we actually talking to? It's right here. Here are the two people that we have to reach out to with their email addresses. Like that's who we're sending the capability statement to and the sources sought to, right? So, all right, what am I going to do with all of this information now, right? Because there's actually a lot to do here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own opportunity. So however you're tracking leads for your business, most people have a CRM of some sort. I'm no different. So this is the one I built just for government contracting. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert everything in here right from, I'm just going to cut and paste it. I do have a SAM scraper, but I'm not going to use that right now. Laundry services for military treatment. And I also have, like I said, the exact contact that I'm going to have to reach out to. It looks like this woman, Michelle, right? So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to put her name. Yes. I'm going to add her email address. Bear with me here because this is going to illustrate the exact steps that I'm going to take this source of sought through once I have this in here. I'm not going to make this all exhaustive either. This is the source of sought. I don't know how much it's worth, but let's say my average contract opportunity is 150,000. We could put that in there for now. And have her email. Okay, so I'm going to create that. Great. Okay, so now I have my source of sought opportunity in my pipeline. And again, that's based off of what I found on Sam.gov, which is based off of what I found in USA Spending as a low competition, high paying niche for something that I can provide. Oh, what CRM is that? You would love to know. No, this is called GovClose. This is a CRM, Kent, that I built for our certification students. Hold on, let me just put it in here. I don't even think you can click on that, but govclose.com. So if you go to govclose.com, you'll see, but essentially when I retired from being an acquisitions officer in the Air Force, started a consulting company with our clients, Kent, they were all over the place as far as the CRM. Some of them were using a spreadsheet. Some of them are using Salesforce. Some of them were using HubSpot. Some of them used Asana. None of it made sense. And none of them were set up for government contracting. That's for sure. So I had to put something in front of them and their sales teams where they're not going to miss what was obvious to me, but not to somebody that is not in the government space all the time, right? And I'm going to address some of those with you right now. So even though you can't buy this, only my students have this right now and the companies we're working with, you could set up something very similar to this in your own CRM. So as long as it's editable, you could put similar steps in there. So this is what I would do, right? The first thing I'm going to do is I might even in my mind, you can edit these, you make a go, no go decision at some point on your opportunities. Now, this step may come early, it may come later. It just depends on the opportunity. But for this one, let's say that I have decided that I need a teaming partner to do part of the work. So I end up over here, I establish teaming partners. And for me to establish teaming partners, by the way, another thing that you can use USA Spending for, because if I go in here and just look at this source of sought, they started talking about some of the things that it wanted us to be able to do. Talking about different linen items, dry clean, launder wash, maybe like the washing piece of this, or washing medical and dental uniforms is something that I don't do. Well, what I could then, if I wanted to find a company to team up with on that, I might start looking through here because these are all companies that have contracts for dry cleaning. And again, You can change the code and make it whatever your company is, cybersecurity, construction, software, virtual reality, anything. Because I want to see companies that not only do they have past performance, I want them to have past performance with the agency that I'm selling to. And that's very important. So here, Defense Health Agency. In fact, if I don't have experience with Defense Health Agency or any experience at all, I'm going to look for a company that does laundry services, and I'm going to go reach out to them and try to team up with them on this. So that's step one. You can see each one of these steps actually has quite a few other steps associated with it. But establish teaming partners. How am I going to do that? I'm going to reach out to those companies I found on USA Spending. I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to call them. I'm going to say, hey, look, I'm a small business. I have an opportunity with Defense Health Agency. I can do part of it. I'd like to team up with you, maybe on another part of it. This is actually an amazing way, not only to team up with companies, but to build these teaming partnerships with them in the future. Look, companies selling to the government, including mine, maybe even yours, if you're watching this and you're selling, they get hit up all the time. As soon as they see that you're on contract, every company in the world thinks, I'm going to just reach out to them and maybe they need some subcontracting work, right? But look, they're already on contract, right? Meaning they have their subcontractors 99 times out of 100. So it's just spam. But if you reach out to them and say, I have an opportunity for you that I found you don't even have to tell them what the opportunity is. You're just saying, I have an opportunity with Defense Health Agency. Let's set up a conversation. If they're worth their salt, they're going to want to have a conversation with you. So establish teaming partners. That's where that is. Now, even before I do that, I might just email the government POC. POC is just my garbled acronym for point of contact. So it's kind of a military thing. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to email the point of contact before I actually write my submission? Well, there's a lot of reasons I might do that. One reason I would do that is because I want to get a sense of how much competition there is. Is this do they have somebody in mind for this? If I don't know if there's an incumbent on this or not, then I might ask if there's an incumbent. But you can just email the point of contact and ask them questions. You might see, and this happens to me all the time, I might find a source of SOT that I know here's a good example. It's a source of SOT for training. And I know that they want to train aircrew to do X, Y, and Z. They're not asking for an augmented reality or virtual reality software. But I know that the augmented reality software that my client has can solve part of their training. So I might email the government point of contact and just ask them, hey, I know you're not asking for, but we have an augmented reality solution. We've sold it to the Air Force to do other types of training. That would actually solve a big piece of this for you. It would probably save money. Is this something was it worth my time writing a source of SOT submission and suggesting this? And you would be surprised, like just that email, whether they say yes or no, that is so helpful to you. You might get a hell yes. And now you've got, I definitely want to fill in all the paperwork and put the source of SOT together, submit this, because they might be interested in this technology that can help them out. On the other hand, they could say, no, the requirement's already set. We're not looking for that. I want to know that now before I go through all of the trouble of writing a source of SOT submission. Okay, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste their time. So just emailing the point of contact can be hugely beneficial. They may even want to meet with you before you write the source of SOT. You can get a lot of information just right here. Okay, so I've called them. It looks like something I still want to make a submission on. Now I've got to write my response. Okay, and if you have a teaming partner, that means you're going to have to coordinate between them and you, and that can be a pain in the butt if you've ever done this before. So just make sure you have enough time to do that. And I like to be in charge of this process. I don't like to leave this to somebody else. If you leave it to somebody else, assume it's not going to get done. So I write the source of SOT response. There are tools out there that can help you, but look, I recommend just, if you want to use ChatGPT to help you craft some of the paragraphs and stuff, you can, but the best thing that you can do when you're writing a source of SOT is read the questions, answer the questions that they want answered, and make sure you provide the government past performance. If you don't have past performance with the government, you want to give them at least little snippets of use cases where you've done this work commercially, right? Like, hey, I helped company X and give them the metrics, right? This is dry cleaning. So I cleaned 1,000 shirts and there were no blood stains on any of them from the Marine Corps ball or whatever. You get my point. All right. So I write it, I submit it. Now, this is one of the biggest, I'll ignore that. This is one of the biggest things that almost every company I've worked with has made this mistake. I've made this mistake. Everyone's made this mistake. When you submit the RFI, you have to confirm receipt. Why is that? If the government doesn't respond back when you submit anything, proposal, sources sought, but especially these things because these are kind of official responses. But if you don't get a response when you email the government, you have got to assume that they did not receive your email. I don't know how many, in fact, I had one woman who, like, when I asked her, did she get her proposal confirmed? She's like, no. And then what I told her to do was email them again, but do not forward the proposal or the sources sought that you sent. Remove the attachment, remove all the links from your email block, no pictures, just, hey, I wanted to confirm that you received the submission. What does that do? Well, first of all, links and photos and attachments can be blocked by government email systems. My wife's emails are blocked all the time. Usually I didn't get her emails. So I knew that this happened, and it happens with companies. You don't want to go through all of the work of putting a good product together, a sources sought, submitting it, only to know that or learn later that the government didn't even receive it, right? So in the example I gave you, the government responded back and said, oh, we didn't even get it. Thank God you sent it to us. They might give you another email address to send it to. You might have another way of sending it in, but you got to make sure that they actually receive the submission. Okay, so this is critical. Confirm receipt. And if you can't get a response with an email, you have to call them. Just figure it out. Make sure that they receive what you're sending them. And hey, picking up the phone, be surprised how many people don't want to pick up the phone these days. You pick up the phone, that is a really good way of getting your foot in the door with a government office. All right, so what's next? Well, we're not just leaving it there, right? You've gone through some work to submit this sources sought to the government. I want this $150,000 dry cleaning contract. Now, the whole point of this, sorry, I just brought up the bigger opportunity there. The whole point of this is I want to set up a meeting with the government office. Like, it is all about building relationships. So if you have any takeaway from all of this, how do you win government contracts? Meetings win contracts. Relationships win contracts. That's very similar to the regular sales, the B2B, B2C sales process. It just has to be done in a different way because it's a highly regulated environment, but there's still people on the other side of the desk. And those are the relationships you have to cultivate. So this is not government contracting is not now and never was you just sit in your basement and don't talk to anybody. That's not what it is. It's quite the opposite. It takes a long time. It's hard. It can be very lucrative if it's done right. But let me give you just an example of this, right? So first of all, request follow-up meeting. After they get that sources sought and they've confirmed it, I want a meeting. I want to talk to them. I want to do a briefing with them. I want to talk to them. After I got out of the Air Force and got on the commercial side of this, one of my clients ended up hiring me to just run their sales for their pipeline for Air Force, Space Force sales. And one of the major ways that I sold, by the way, sold millions of dollars in software services, never wrote a proposal on a solicitation because I didn't have to. I upselled the existing customers. I cultivated a relationship. So one of our clients, our government clients, he was really into smoking and he had a farm, and I have a very expensive smoker on my deck right now. Not a lot of people in Massachusetts kind of subscribe to the Southern barbecue and all of that, but this dude got me really into it. But the point is I took interest in something one of my clients was interested in, and because their entire team was into it. So now I have something to talk to them about that's not just contracting, right? I'm developing that relationship with them, right? So, hey, yeah, I just did a Boston butt. Oh, great, Rick. What kind of pellets did you use? Blah, blah, blah. And then, oh yeah, by the way, we need 3 more licenses. See what I'm saying? So like, just make sure meetings win contracts. So you got to request the meeting. You don't know whether that's good or bad. Do you mean our expert? Oh, that's funny. Do you mean that's not good or bad for the relationship piece? Put it in the comments. I'd like to know what you mean by that. I think it's a good thing because, look, you have to build a relationship. You're building relationships in sales, B2B, B2C. On the government side, it has to be done in a certain way, right? Once you're on contract with the government, you got to have that relationship in place. If for no other reason, you have to make sure that whatever it is you sold them works because you have a moral and ethical obligation to make sure that you're not selling crap to the government. Whatever it is, it has to work. It has to be working for them, supporting the military, supporting the vets, whoever's using it. Make sure it works. That also gives you the opportunity to tell them what else you have to sell. Do they need more of it? Okay, so what do I do when I request that meeting? I might have to request that meeting a few times. I'm not always going to get it, but what's next here? Demo, capability brief. I want to get in there, right? And I have other videos on how to actually build a briefing for the government. If you could do a demo, it's probably easier to get a virtual demo scheduled. If you have something to demo, you could do a slide deck, but you want to be super focused. Tell them a little bit about your company, but you want to learn more. Like your objective you don't want to be talking the whole time. Right? Remember in sales, you want to get whoever you're selling to do the talking. Learn as much about the customer as possible. Learn what they need, learn about the opportunity. Don't go in there and give them a list of 500 things that you do. You don't do 500 things, and they don't want to hear that you do 500 things. Nobody wants to hear that you do everything. Even if you don't go in there and tell them you do everything, ask about them. What is your I think I got kicked off my own live stream there for a second. All right, Jose, how do you bring value to companies that have a capture plan? They're doing 10 million a year in obligations. This is in regards to prospecting for clients. Do you mean prospecting? I'm assuming, Jose, you mean prospecting for government clients. Is that correct? It doesn't really matter how much you're selling each year. I mean, the more you're selling, it means the more past performance you have. First thing, Jose, I would say that you want to do is if your company, if what you're saying is your company is doing 10 million a year in contracts for the federal government, the first thing I would do with a company like that is I would have you list out every single federal customer that you have. And I would want to know, are you following up with every single person that you're selling to? So everybody's selling something different, right? Could be software, could be dry cleaning services. But the program manager, your point of contact in the government that you're working with, I would make sure that you're reaching out to them every month, every 2 months. Hey, how much is what we're selling you hitting the mark? Is there a problem? If there's a problem, you fix it. You work with, okay, I'm going to get my guys together. We're going to fix it. If there's no problem, then you can tell them about some of the other services you have, right? Oh, hey, by the way, did you know that we have these new options for our software? Do you know that we can do X, Y, and Z? So it just gives you an opportunity to meet with each of them and try to upsell them. That's what you want to do. So, and by the way, Jose, I bet like a company like that, that's where you would really make your money. Like that is for me, the number one thing to do, the number one place where there is money that companies aren't exploiting it. And the easiest way to sell to the government is upselling your existing clients. The timeline's shorter. You're already on contract. They already know you. Those are the relationships you want to build. And then after we've done that and we have a system in place for routinely reaching out to every single person that you have sold to on the government side, then we're going to start taking a look at what I just went through up here. I'm sorry, you're not looking at my screen anymore. I'm going to have to share my screen again, which is finding things like a source of sought or reviewing acquisitions forecasts, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to build a pipeline of these opportunities before the solicitation. And we're going to walk them through all of these steps. The further I get down on this line of steps, the higher the P-win goes, right? So if I've talked to the office, if I've submitted a sources sought, I requested a meeting, I was able to give the meeting. Now I'm to the point where I need to, which one's right? This one here. When is the solicitation? Now I've done all of this work before the solicitation comes out, right? So here's the solicitation, step 11. Believe it or not, this is where most companies start. This is where most companies think the government contracting process starts when the RFP comes out. Hey, the solicitation came out. I don't know how many friggin' like YouTube videos I've seen where people are like, oh yeah, I'm just finding solicitations and I'm writing proposals. Like I know these people, I know a lot of those people. And what they're not telling you is they have to write 20 to 50 proposals on those solicitations to even get a bite. That is not the way to sell to the government. And by the way, a lot of the people that are doing that, they're finding a solicitation and they're writing a proposal. They get mad because it looks like the solicitation was written for their competitor and then their competitor wins. And they're like, I've written 3 proposals and I haven't won anything. And by the way, it looks like these solicitations were written for my competitor and they won. So it's all rigged. Well, it's not rigged. It's just that you didn't know there was a market research phase, which comes before this, where companies are allowed to talk to the government. So think about it. All your competitors, they're starting way back here. And they're doing all the work, the RFI, the partners, talking, emailing the POCs in the government, writing the sources sought, submitting the sources sought, requesting a meeting, setting up meetings, helping them write the solicitation, all of this work, sometimes months and months of work, if not years for huge contracts. Then the solicitation comes out. So think about how much more likely you are to win if you've done all that work going up to the solicitation release, right? So this is how the process works for most things, not commodities, not new tech development, but just about everything else. This is what we're doing. Now, probably the same woman here that I have to send the proposal to. The real work begins with the solicitation. We're not getting artistic on the solicitation. We're writing this exactly as they want it, but we're using all the information that we learned back here. Because I can tell you, when they put this solicitation out, you're not going to have all the use cases. They couldn't possibly put all of the information in here. You're going to have, I just got off of that screen, but you're going to have way more information because you've talked to them, you've set up meetings, you've done the sources sought. You're going to be that much more prepared. Then you're going to look, and even here, you're not going to win them all, but your P-win is going to go up a lot higher. And, I have clients, 30%, 40% win rates. Now they're being very picky, right? But you're going to waste a lot less time, trust me, if you use a method like this. So you submit the proposal, and once again, you confirm that the government receives it. Because if you don't confirm they received it, then they didn't receive it. They don't send you an email saying, we received your proposal. You assume that they did not receive the proposal. And once they've confirmed, now you can just wait for the award decision. And they should tell you, hopefully you won. Great. What happens if you lose? Well, if you lose this award, you can ask them for a debrief. What was wrong? Like, did you do something wrong with the proposal? Right? There is something that probably happened there that you can improve on, because we can always improve when we're writing things. All right, let me see here. Did I answer all of the questions here? You've got, if anyone doesn't look around the pod, they're excluded. Okay, I missed a lot of these questions here. I would say, how do you bring value to come? All right, I answered that one. Then Pigeon Post wrote CCP DOS. I don't know what that means. Our expert, meaning the isms. Oh, I see what you're saying. So favoritism, nepotism, etc. versus DEI. If one doesn't look around the part. Okay, so look, first, just a little bit about, I think, what's going to happen in government contracting post this election. Both the Biden administration and the Trump administration were doing things to make it easier for small businesses to win contracts. But they'd both go about it in different ways. And this is going to answer a little bit about your question. The Biden administration, the way that they were trying to even the playing field was to increase percentages of contracts awarded to, I wouldn't call it favoritism, but the set-aside groups. woman-owned small business, 8A, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, et cetera. So those type of set-asides were how the Biden administration, one of the ways that they would do that. Whereas the Trump administration, what we saw is they were using more deregulation, more simplified acquisitions, make it happen faster, get some of the bureaucracy out of the way. So first of all, our expert, I would think that we're going to see less of a focus on the isms and more of like, let's just even the playing field, make it easier for people. That's what I'm expecting. I could be wrong. Certifications, by the way, don't get caught up thinking those certifications mean more than they do. I don't know how many people have gotten an 8A certification and thought the heavens were going to open and contracts were going to just start falling into their business. And it didn't. Certifications can help you move the needle a tiny little bit. The best thing that you can do is have an amazing product or service and an amazing sales team. Doesn't matter how good your business is. If you can't sell, you don't have a business. Government contracting, it's even more important because it's complex. You want to have a focused plan, have people that can sell, and they've got to have a persistent, big pipeline for your business. That's what is going to move the needle. There are certain things like the VA, service disabled veteran-owned businesses, they have contract law written. So a lot of their contracts go to SDVOSB, and that's true. 8As make it easier for sole source contracts, but you're not losing contracts because you don't have a certification. Like if that's your mindset, I would ask you to change that respectfully. Which contracts offer the most meritocracy? Here's what I would say, not construction. So I mentioned when I think about certifications in meritocracy, there are only a few areas where the certification is going to eliminate you. One is if a solicitation has already been set aside for a certain type of business. And the other is just flat out, if you're selling to the VA has a preference program for service disabled veterans, service disabled veteran-owned businesses. That's not going to change, but it's not all industries, right? So construction is heavy. If you look at all the construction contracts awarded by the VA, a huge percentage of them go to SDVOSB. But when we get away from that, you just have to look at the agency. This is why the data is so important. You can look at each agent. In fact, I'll do it right now. Okay, so we're in USA spending, right? And you wanted to know about meritocracy. Now, I'm just going to stick with this industry of dry cleaning, right? Because that's what I clicked on. So let's take a look here, right? 52.9 million in 2024, 64.6 million in 2023. Let's take a look at this number because there's a lag in reported spending from the government. What I'm going to do here is we're going to take a look at exactly how many businesses had certifications in these contract awards versus did not. 64.6 million. Again, this is a low spend, but it's dry cleaning, right? And we can see here the VA followed by, so if the VA, here's my suspicion. If the VA awarded $55.4 million in contracts, I would expect a strong amount of those went to service disabled veteran businesses. But now let's take a look here. I'm going to look at the recipient type. So these are all business. Let's take a look at what's the difference between niche and small business. Let's take a look. Small business. Going to run this again. Think about the data. Okay, so now what we see is, well, let's take a look here. 2023. So about half of the spending in 2023 went to small businesses. That's actually really good. The government, the SBA standards about 23% for small business contract awards, right? So this means about 50%. So this means in this particular field, this dry cleaning and laundry services, that a higher percentage of contracts are going to small businesses than is the standard, right? Now, if you want to look at something like how many of those go to woman-owned small business, I can click that. Let me get rid of that. And by the way, you could run this drill with every single certification and see exactly what's going to which certifications, if that's what you're trying to figure out. What I like to look for is how much is going to a business that looks like mine. Okay, so now let's see here. So about 13.2 million went to woman-owned small businesses, which, remember, it was about 30 million that year, right? So it's just under half of the small business contract awards went to woman-owned small business. So that tells you something. It also tells you what the Army's doing. 6 million from the Army, it's about 6 million from the Navy. It's pretty evenly distributed. So hopefully that helps you like figure out, it can give you the tool basically to figure out which agencies are awarding to what types of businesses. It might affect which agency you're actually going to target as far as selling to the government, right? Let's see, does GovClose help companies earn certifications? Do they prevent there's no preventing the isms. We show people, so GovClose is two things, just so you guys all know. So GovClose is half a certification program, and that's where we teach the government contracting process. And we are teaching that primarily for people that want to start their own consulting business or get a job as a sales executive with a company selling to the government. We have a module at the end that shows them exactly how to start a consulting business. And we also have students that are going in, I mean, they're crushing it. They're closing deals left and right, getting jobs with big government contracting companies. Those are big money sales jobs. The other side of our business is the business that I've had since I retired, and that's helping companies sell to the government. Now, I don't have getting the certifications I don't think that is something that you should be paying somebody for. So I don't charge people to get certifications. I think it's a very straightforward process. You go to the small SBA website, sba.gov, I believe, and it'll walk you through the different certifications. Here's my experience is the Service Disabled Veteran and Small Business Certification. It takes a couple weeks to get. I got it just to go through the process. Not that hard. Woman-owned small business takes a little bit longer. 8A, big pain. HubZone, I don't know. I haven't had to get it myself. But it's self-explanatory. It walks you through all the steps. But it can be a little bit painful. If you pay someone, they're just going to go to that website and look at everything that needs to be done. And it's a ton of information, personal information, tax information from you, personal information that you probably don't want to be giving someone anyway. My recommendation, go to sba.gov and get the certifications if you qualify for them. But the other thing, our expert is to prevent the isms. Like here's the thing. I don't care if a company has a certification. Like if you have when I say prevent the isms, if I have a good plan, you can go out and let's say, we'll stick with dry cleaning since we've been looking at this ad nauseum here. If you have a dry cleaning company and you have an 8A, which is like the king of the certifications. So you can get sole source contracts. And I have a dry cleaning business, but I don't have 8A. I'm not worried about your certification because I've done the research, I know what offices I am trying to sell to. I'm not selling to the ones that are doing a lot of 8A contracting. I'm going to avoid those. I'm going to go to the ones that avoid the most non-certification small business contracts. Or if I happen to be SDVOSB, then I'm going to go and target the ones that give the most SDVOSB contracts. And I'm going to win more contracts than you because I know what I'm doing. I mean, that's how we get away from the isms. Like we teach people, there's very few people actually understand how to sell to the government. So people going through our course know how to do it, and they're going to get better results than almost anybody else because they're going to do their research and know that this is a persistent over time thing that we have to do, working ahead of the solicitation with the people that buy what you sell, that buy from companies like yours. That's how we do it. And cold calling companies that you want to offer I see what you're saying, Jose. You're talking about consulting leads. Who think after a couple wins, they have nothing to improve on. Jose, sorry. Jose, I think I hope I didn't just delete your comment. I don't cold call companies. I certainly have cold emailed companies. Here, look, if somebody calls me with an ego, it happens very rarely. If someone calls me, they just want my help. If you do run into somebody that has an ego about their wins, then it's probably not a good fit. Like you got to make it, if you're consulting, I would say I think most people can develop a really good sense of who a good client to work with is than another. That's why in Jose, this is what I would start. I see what I did. I guess I pinned your comment up there. I didn't even know I could do that. The first thing I start with when I'm giving a consultation is government contracting is hard. It takes a long time, but it can be very lucrative if you have a focused plan and you are persistent over time in the steps that you have to do. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated, but it does take time. 6 to 18 months is what you got to plan on, right? And in the beginning, if you don't know how many contracts you're going to close, we think of it as this 10% close rate. If you want to make $10 million a year, I need to build a $100 million pipeline, just like I showed you guys with the CRM steps, right? So $10 million a year, I want a $100 million pipeline. I want this to be a $100 million pipeline, and assume 10% of them will close. Now, if you're following these methods, you're going to get a higher percentage, but the only way you're going to know what your real close rate is to close contracts. You eliminate opportunities that don't make sense for us to follow because we don't want to waste our time. In any company where they've won a couple of contracts, if they're talking to you as a consultant to help sell to the government, then they know that they need help. If they didn't need help, they wouldn't be talking to you because they'd just be winning contracts, right? So everybody needs help. Everybody's looking, but in different degrees. So again, if they don't want your help, don't waste your time. Let's see here. Salute third-party assessment organizations. Oh, yeah, 3PAOs. Yeah, 3PAOs. Hey, they're making a lot. It's a great position to be in right now if you're a 3PAO. 3PAO, for everybody that doesn't know, the government has a couple of ways the government has very strict cybersecurity policies in place. So especially for software companies, but not just software companies. So there's something called CMMC. It's like the cyber maturity risk model, something. I know I don't have that completely right. CMMC, the other one's FedRAMP that everyone's talking about. FedRAMP is mainly for cloud hosted software suites, platforms, essentially, but very restrictive, very hard to meet cybersecurity policies for some companies, especially small businesses. And this is, by the way, before I get off the stage here, if anything, over the next 4 years, we may see a little bit of loosening of these restrictions. At least the Trump administration, what we saw was a loosening of a lot of the restrictions, trying to make things easier for small businesses from a policy and administrative standpoint, where we saw some very strict measures being put in place the past 4 years. But again, they weren't entirely, they were still there a little bit with Trump. So what are we going to see over the next 4 years? Hopefully it makes it a little bit easier. If you do have a software tool, know that you're not getting on a government network without meeting their cybersecurity restriction policies, right? So I would look up CMMC, look up FedRAMP. The 3PAO, those are third-party assessors that the government has basically authorized to take a look at your company, your software suite, your computers, how you store your emails, government information, and do an assessment to see if you meet their policy. So you could do a self-assessment, and then you can then upload your score into, I think it's called SPRS. It's been a while since I've had to look at it. But yeah, they're making big bucks because companies need that in order to sell. I had a client reach out to me about 6 months ago. He's been selling to the military for years and years. He gets an email from the Navy. They want to put an $800,000 delivery order on his schedule, on his contract, but they can't do it because he didn't do the SPRS assessment. So he had to call a 3PAO. So that is the 3PAO piece. All right, last chance for questions. Going once. Going twice. All right. Well, hey, it was great once again meeting with you here on the live call. For any of your questions, you can always reach out directly to me. My email's rick@govclose.com. And also would love to, if anybody's interested in our certification program, love to see you go through there. Specifically, if you're looking for a career change or you want to be more of a consultant, I'll just put it in the notes there. I think it's going to, something's going to pop up there. But yeah, so essentially the way the certification program works, come in, it's a mixture of on-demand classes and weekly coaching. And at the end of it, a lot of our students are going on to advise companies, work with them. A lot of sales teams are actually going through too, some company owners. So come on in. Love to see you there. Let's see here. I didn't see your question, Jose, about USA spending. Hold on a second. I saw your question about when cold calling, companies that are selling to the government. Yeah. Oh, based on the data in USA spending, how are you identifying how much companies are actually receiving in revenue? Oh, Jose, that depends on the contract, right? Every single contract's going to be a little bit different. If you're selling a recurring software license, and you're getting ARR, I mean, most of that's probably profit. But if you're selling services, you might get 10%. A lot of contracts is a standard. You might see 7 to 12% in profit written into the actual contract, but then the company's also on services is also making profit off the total charged for each of the people. It just depends. If it's commodities, it's wicked low. It's pretty high if you're selling consulting services to a company though, right? If it's just you, that's profit. So anyway, hope that helps. Thanks guys, and we will see you next time.